Okay, well, good morning and happy Friday. I'm Newell Arnerich, Mayor of Danville, and today we're here with Town Talks, and we're going to be talking about transportation and from a local level, from safety, exciting things that are happening, about an incredible bus program that we have to provide congestion relief as it relates to our schools. So we're joined by Andy Dillard, our Director of Transportation for the town of Danville. Welcome, Andy. And we also have Kellie Fahey from Traffix. And think about it, Kellie, if you move your head, we can see the word Traffix. It means like traffic and fix it. So we're going to talk about how that came out. And of course, we also have Tim Haile, who's the Executive Director of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And these three guests are here today because they're all linked together. And most of us on a daily basis, we assume and just take for granted what's happening in our community. But just as importantly, we're going to talk today about what the future looks like. And the future has some exciting opportunities to make lives better, to make transportation safer, and to move people more quickly. But as usual, I put together a 1-minute video. And, you know, it always seems to be each subject is a little harder to figure out how to do a video. But today, we have a really cool video to get us started for this. Well, great. That's a little bit of theme to capture all of our subjects today. So let's start with Andy. Andrew, you had, you were born and raised here, Danville, local, and now you run kind of our, how streets and things work. Can you tell us a little bit about, there's some exciting things, in Danville, we worry about safety and things like that. This is a community based on lots of neighborhood schools. We have a lot of density of schools. What are some of the new exciting things we're doing around safety here in Danville?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me, Mr. Mayor. It's a privilege to be here and exciting topic this morning. So really appreciate the opportunity. So in Danville, just like a lot of jurisdictions, we focus our efforts around what we call the 5 E's of traffic safety: engineering, encouragement, enforcement, education, and evaluation, to see how all the things that we implemented are working. And to achieve that, we do that primarily in the transportation sector. We do that through programmatic type functions as well as engineering. And specifically today, is kind of the theme is innovation and technology. So with all the new emerging technologies coming down the pike that Tim will talk about a little bit later, it's really providing a lot more tools in our toolbox to be able to respond to traffic safety issues in town and to help keep moving more efficiently and, of course, safely as well. So everybody wants to get to their destination as quick as possible, but our jobs that we're tasked with are making sure that people do that in a safe manner. So there's a number of tools in our toolbox that we use. Programmatically, our neighborhood traffic management program, which has been around since I think it's 1996, to solve traffic calming issues in our residential areas.
Yeah, Andrew, could you explain that one a little bit? Because we kind of know what it means, but what does it mean to the average person? What is a neighborhood traffic management program?
Yeah, great question. So the program is it's geared as a resident-driven consensus building approach to solving traffic calming issues in neighborhoods, including speeding and cut-through traffic, particularly in and around school sites, because of course that's tends to be our biggest problematic areas. But it's again, it's a consensus building type process where we include the residents, we go out, we engage with them, find out what the issues are, come back, look at it from a technical standpoint, evaluate it, and then come up with some solutions to solve those issues. Everything from speed humps to stop signs to roundabouts, even signing and striping, all those types of things are tools in our toolbox that we use, including I want to mention our radar display signs that have been very effective on our arterials, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of those throughout downtown Danville and throughout our arterial corridors in the future.
So, on that toolbox, I think one thing it's important for people to know, while it's a resident driven, what that means is that in Danville, if a neighborhood, and I think the threshold is 70% or higher, if 70% of the neighborhood says we'd like to do these, that then eventually comes to the council once there's an agreement where things will be placed. And we pretty much, I hate to use the word, but we kind of rubber stamp those, because those are really intended to be a way for neighborhood to help have influence over that. So we've had a few of those. There's a big one that we just approved, big in terms of the scale and the scope, on Greenbrook. And where are we at with sort of getting that one fully implemented?
Yeah, that was a long process. COVID interrupted it, but it took several years, but it was a very large neighborhood as far as size goes. Several streets involved, but it's one of our largest NTMPs we've ever done. But and thanks to the council, it got approved unanimously, and it was with a lot of background work and consensus building prior to that council meeting, as you mentioned, that we wanted to make sure that we had everyone on board. But basically encompasses bicycle safety, striping, markings, speed humps, as I mentioned, new crosswalk markings, speed limit signs, more of those radar display signs that I mentioned earlier. So it's just a complete package of traffic calming measures for, I believe it's 4 streets within that Greenbrook South neighborhood. So expect to see those implemented this summer.
That's great. Along with that, one of the, this is going to relate up to Tim up at the big regional level, but most of the cities in Contra Costa have adopted a complete street program. And the concept is to take all modes of transportation, which is from pedestrian, bicycles, scooters, cars, things like that. And we've recently, particularly on Diablo Road, and we still have more to do, but Andy, can you describe what we were doing? I know there was one of our largest sort of pivotal changes towards bicycles and stuff. Can you describe some of the things that we've done and where we're headed?
Love to. It's one of my favorite topics. So Diablo Road, lots of things happening on Diablo Road. A couple years ago, as most of the public is aware now, we completed a pretty intensive bicycle lane striping project that we coupled with a pavement overlay project. So now we have nice green bike lanes all up and down Diablo Road, all the way from the downtown out to Green Valley. So we have a really nice contiguous bike network now. So that was kind of phase 1. Phase 2, which is really the big ticket item, is of course the Diablo Road Trail that we've been waiting for years and years. We have the green light on that. Thanks to our partners at CCTA, that project now is fully funded as well. So that will be going to construction next year. So very exciting.
Awesome. So, speaking of safety and things like that, there's a couple of new unique things that we've done with bicycle safety. And Andrew, can you describe, when bicyclists come up and they might be in the turn lane, like a car, which they can do, but they can't be seen, or at least previously. So what have we done to try to improve the safety to help bicycle? And what does it physically look like? Because I don't think everybody knows.
Great question. Another one of my favorite topics. So This is again where we're starting to employ more of that innovation and technology to help our cyclists. And one of the things that we started doing, which a lot of cities, the bigger urban cities have been doing now for a while, is installing what's called a bicycle box, which basically is a big green box right at the intersection, and it allows the bicyclist to pull up in front of the cars and get in front of the cars so they can get out in front of traffic first when that signal turns green. So that's one thing. Another thing is the use of what we call video detection, which helps actually the signal to detect bicycles exclusively. And when they get that detection, we're now using these really cool bike lights on the side of the road on the signal, so they have an indication that they know that they've been detected. Because a lot of times a bicyclist will pull up to the signal, have I been detected? I'm not sure. A lot of bikes now, they're carbon fiber, not a lot of metal on them, because we use mostly inductive loops in the ground. So it can be hard for those bikes to get detected, but with this video detection system and this indicator, it's a win-win for the bicyclists. Gets them out in front of traffic, lets them know they've been detected, and keeps everyone moving safe.
That's fantastic. And that's a bright blue light, isn't it? As you look towards where generally right where the push button is to cross, it's somewhere right around there.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bicycle symbol on it, and then a nice bright blue LED light below that.
Excellent. Another level of safety. So there's also, talking about technology, and Danville's been working on this for years, and we're really, I think, a little ahead of the game. But there were two things that we did. Nobody knows about it, but we had to change out all of the technology in our signal boxes, and we have an interconnection system now. Tell us about what were the changes and what does the interconnect do for us?
Yeah, this is probably in my top 3 list for my favorite topics. So yes, thanks to again to the council for the funding and supporting this effort. But we were able to change out all of our traffic signal controller systems, and it's basically the computer that runs a signalized intersection. We were able to change out all of that old technology and all those old controllers to new controller technology, and this is going to set us up for being able to be ready for autonomous vehicles, which Tim will talk about a little bit later. It's going to provide us with more timely, real-time information, so we can make better decisions in the office here and move traffic safely and more efficiently. But we were able to change out all 54 traffic signal controllers over the last, I'd say about 2.5 years. And now we're all up to date. We have 21st century technology in our signal cabinets. So we're very excited about that.
You know, you mentioned the number of traffic signals over 50. I've been around long enough. I was pretty young, but I remember we had one, and it was the old highway. It was, which was Harts Avenue, San Ramon Valley Boulevard. It's right at the intersection of Diablo and Harts there. So yeah, we've grown a little bit. The other part is we connected them all together. What does the interconnecting of every single traffic light do for us?
Yeah, so in Danville, we're very fortunate that our signals are all connected to each other. So that was with years of hard work with our previous traffic engineer, and I'm going to mention her name because she's an awesome person, Nazanin Shakarin. She worked so hard to get that system fully interconnected, so all the signals can talk to each other, and we can get and look at all the signals back here in the office. That's a pretty rare thing for a city of our size to have that fully interconnected. So that's kind of our baseline. The next step in the process is to put fiber optic technology into the ground to replace the existing copper, which is our current network, backfill that with fiber optic technology so we can get back quicker data. We can start putting in more cameras and watch our intersections online. And that fiber optic technology, it's coming soon. Our funding plan is almost complete. As you know, the council adopted the fiber optic master plan late in 2021. That's kind of like the backbone of our plan. So we're hoping in the next year or two that we will be fully backfilled with fiber optic technology interconnecting our signals.
That's exciting. That also helps us as the future of not just autonomous cars, but what will probably really be deployed in great numbers first is smart cars. So the smart cars will be able to communicate and have that census. We have a gap though in a couple of places. And, Caltrans, most people don't know, they own certain portions. So on and off ramps and the over ramps of those, they control those. So how do we interface and, some way get our system to work? Because otherwise we can move traffic evenly and safely, and all of a sudden we run into that and they're out of sync. So what are you working on there?
Yeah, so coordination is so important, particularly at our on and off ramps of the signals. And as you mentioned, I believe there's 6 signals currently that are owned by Caltrans. We've been talking to them recently about potentially taking those over so that we can put that new technology and match the technology that we have in our arterials on the on and off ramp so they can better communicate with each other. So that's kind of the next piece of our signal controller project, is to see if we can work that out with Caltrans. So
exciting stuff. Well, it's all about moving people safely and quicker. Andrew, thanks for all of your expertise and watching out, particularly around our schools, to help make things safer for everybody. Well, speaking of schools, let's talk to Kellie. Kellie Fahey is our program director for the Traffix program. And yes, the word traffic and fix, the idea was to merge them together. How can we fix traffic specifically around schools? And the history is in Danville, San Ramon, here in the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. The original schools were built in the 50s and 60s were neighborhood schools. Most of the elementaries were 350, 400 children. But the wonderful part of our neighborhoods is they really were part of the neighborhood. You can walk and do that. Well, our communities have grown up, and we found that we had a terrible congestion around the schools. One, it wasn't safe. 2, it made it very challenging for parents to get to and from to drop their kids off. So there was something we'll talk about with Tim as well. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority got started because of a voter-approved half-cent sales tax back in the late 80s called Measure C. And Measure C was about doing big regional projects and tying them together. Then later came Measure J. Well, the number one value proposition that was added to Measure J for our area was to fix traffic congestion around schools. So out of that came the idea, because school districts, most here in California, used to have school bus programs, but they didn't anymore. Well, our challenge was, how do we fix the congestion? So we came up with the idea of creating and targeting the most congested schools based on evaluating the traffic, and created a bus program. It's not run by the school, it's run by actually Kellie, but we hired an independent bus company, First Student, which is the largest in the United States, provides safe school buses with great technology and stuff we'll talk about. But our challenge was, parents here said, well, I don't want my kids to go on school buses. I don't trust that. The survey showed that there was great resistance for it, but we believed that it would work. So the way we got kids before the program started, we got a couple of the brand new buses, put them in the 4th of July parade, filled them full of our friends and our children, opened all the windows, put a big sign on there, sign up for it. Well, after that, here we go. We went from no children on school buses. And Kellie, tell us about what schools have buses, and how many children are riding buses every day?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me, Mr. Mayor. Well, we have 23 routes, and we have the 3 high schools, which is Cal High, Monte Vista High, and San Ramon High, 2 middle schools, and Los Cerros, which is in Danville, and then Pine Valley, which is in San Ramon, 2 elementaries in Danville, which is Green Valley, as well as Vista Grande, and then several in San Ramon. We elementary schools. Before, as the program is going on, is 12 years. Before COVID, we had about 1,700 riders, and then this last year after COVID, we had almost 1,241 riders. So, and currently, starting for this next school year, we just reached our over 900 mark. for passes, and every day we continue to get passes being purchased every single day. Monte Vista is sold out. There's no spots available on Monte Vista. There's some spots available on the Cal High and the San Ramon buses, still available, about 10 seats each there.
Okay.
But it's definitely very popular, and we're going to push hard to get some of the routes where we have the most congestion in the elementary schools. We're going to get I'm going to be pushing very hard to get promote the program. So
how do you sign up for a pass, and what's it cost, Kellie?
well, you go onto our ride traffix.com and you go to the top and it says buy a pass, and you click that and you just follow the prompts. It's super easy. You put your address in, shows you where the closest bus stop is. For the elementary and middle school, it's $425 for the year. So it's an annual amount, whether you use it one day a week or every day of the week, 10 times a week.
So that includes pick up and drop off. Pick you up in the
Yes.
morning near your house and drop you off near your house in the afternoon.
Yes. And then $475 for the high school. And so people will use it. There's kids that will use just the morning or just the afternoon, or, but we don't do anything that's, can we just have it for a week? We don't have that sort of program. So it's just basically an annual pass that you can use as much as you'd like.
So on sort of a cost basis, it's what, under $2 a day it's costing, around that?
Yeah, I could calculate. Well, yeah, calculate that out as our gas prices change. I'm sure
So you get picked up for $1 and you get taken home for $1. That's a good value proposition. So
yes.
the schools were picked, I mentioned a little bit, but they were targeted. We did a survey of every school and looked at the traffic. And because of a limited amount of funds and really not knowing if it would work, the survey showed which schools were the most impacted. And that's how it got decided. Because some people ask, well, why don't you do this school or that? And again, it's not a school bus program, but we are moving schools. So the partners in this is obviously CCTA, which provides our share of the funding back to the Valley. We have Contra Costa County, Supervisor Candace Anderson. We have 2 members from the Danville Council. I've been on it since the founding of it. And we have 2 council members from the city of San Ramon. And we also have 2 school board members, San Ramon Valley Unified School District. So and we also have a parent advisory group that kind of helps us, promote and tweak and make the program work well. So there's some really cool safety things that really helps parents that was added recently. And could you describe what it is and how it works?
Yes, in January, there was an RFID system that was installed on the buses. Actually, it was installed in the fall, but it became live in January. And so each student is issued an RFID, like a unique RFID card and number, so that when they enter the bus, they swipe their card through the system or the reader, and then the reader automatically connects to an app called First View. And the First View app is used by parents to see the location of the child in their bus they're riding, and like in a map in real time. So they can see if the bus is running late, or, can see where their children are, if they got on and got off the bus. Both the RFID and the First View, it was, in the very beginning when it started, we had a couple glitches and it just cleared out really quickly. Very reliable, and the parents, I get so much good feedback from the parents. They really like the system.
That's fantastic. So RFID, let's tell people. So that's a radio frequency identifier, but
Yes.
that little card is also their bus pass. So it provides both that's what you issue. And so how does a parent get that? If they sign up online, what's the mechanics?
Well, they sign up online and then they will get a pass in the mail, and they will get it mailed to their house directly. But one thing that, we're working on right now, and it's a push, but I'm going to push hard on this because I feel that we should move this bus pass, this physical plastic bus pass. I'd like to move it to like a QR code or something similar to that for students to be able to have it on their phones. Obviously, this wouldn't work for elementary kids, and it would definitely be optional, but I just feel it would be a lot more efficient to just get on the bus and just, bring your card. So
Right.
we're working
Easy
on
to
that
say.
right now.
Yeah. So exciting. So you can ride the bus back and forth the day for kid. It gets picked up in neighborhoods. So it's a short walking distance from your house to the bus stop. And we work each year based on who's riding the bus and we adjust those routes, right? And how do we go about that?
Absolutely. I'm in the middle of doing that right now. We have a twice a year in July, and also in December, we do a mid-year route review. And what I do is I collect emails from people that are requesting different routes, and things change every year. So, you might have a lot of kids for middle school, but they've all graduating into high school. So we're adding in different stops based on the needs of the parents. Well, we're looking at each one and seeing how we can do that safely.
So it's really customized according to who rides the bus. So if one neighborhood has a lot of riders, then the stops are right directly in their neighborhood. So there's also, going back to the cost, I think you have an early bird that we do each year so people can pay. And do people pay it all up front, or is there a plan to spread it out? Anything about that?
Yes, they can purchase a half pass in, like, so say like 225. They can purchase that right now, and then on November 1st, they can pay the remaining amount. So if they want to break up the payments, that so that makes it easier for them financially, that's available.
That's great. Yeah,
Mhm.
very, very affordable. So when you look at moving the children and things like that, it's a safe route to school because children are literally picked up very close to the house. The new application, because of the way the cards are used for the bus passes, parents know where the bus is moving, what time. So in terms of coordinating pickup, it's really great. But also you have, what happens if the bus is late? What are the steps that you go through to, is there a notification system, or if it's going to be particularly on the pickup in the morning, parents getting ready to go to work and things like that. How does that system work?
Oh, this has been wonderful. So every morning, very early, I log in and I track the buses. So I can see through First View when they leave the yard, where they're at, and follow them down through. I also keep in very good close contact every single day with dispatch of First Student. If there is a bus that's late, or we have to combine a bus, or we have to do something to adjust, which is, maybe we have a traffic accident or something like that. It's the real world, stuff happens.
Yeah.
So I will put both Pat Shannon, who is the dispatch up at First Student, and I will both put alerts out to parents. She will do it through First View, and I do it, which is a text message directly to the parents. I do it through Traffix website, and I will pick specific buses where the problems are and get an alert out, which is a text message immediately to the parents.
Right. And what's great about that is it's a rapid response system. So it's all about communicating with parents and getting children safely. We just had from Brian Lawyer, who's listening in this morning, and he mentioned, as you were talking about the QR code, I've heard of this, it's called AirTag. Another one that we were looking at that might be an option. AirTag is a little bit more sophisticated version. So kids can just keep in their backpack and it will automatically track them when they get on and off. So yeah, lots of things that we're looking at. So what does the future of Traffix look like? Do we reevaluate which schools? I know we reevaluate what routes. Where are we at in that? What do you think the future looks like?
So in the fall of this coming fall, 2022, we're going to do a level of service analysis, which will be conducted at intersections that traffic currently serves. And then we will take a look at that, and then it's one survey, and in the spring we're going to do another survey, and it will include vehicle miles travel data, which will be identifying possibly new service areas based on levels of traffic, and then that information will be evaluated, and we will take a look and see that the bottom line is to reduce traffic congestion. And so at that point, like I said, we will look at the analysis, and which will be throughout the whole San Ramon Valley district, and take a look if there's any potential areas that we need to start focusing on as well.
That's great. Well, it's interesting when we talk about reducing traffic, as the program got up just before COVID, when we were completely at the maximum, we eliminated over 1 million car trips every year in our local neighborhoods. So it's not just a little impact, it was really significant around that. And we test that because we do the traffic counts around there, and you can clearly see around those small schools, particularly elementary schools, the impact. And, at Kellie, as you said, we're always looking at that, and the big studies coming up again. We should also remember that the way this program is funded, The parents pay a very small portion of this. The program is largely funded by CCTA. And not only that, we were able to start the high school program, and particularly at Cal High and Monte Vista, because of additional funds that came in from Contra Costa County. Supervisor Candace Anderson was able to assign some funds that were set aside for transportation, particularly out from the East Danville developments, and funnel it. And that's been our real target area. So, we do try to cover those areas. And boy, the high school, if you have a student at Monte Vista or Cal High School, getting in and out of that traffic congestion is really, really challenging. So, well, great. We'll come back to you, Kellie, in a little bit. So let's go to Tim Hales.
Thank you.
A little background. Tim Hale, actually an engineer by trade, but a visionary engineer. And what's the difference? I think it's, to me, I'm an architect. And what's the difference between an architect and an engineer? Well, an engineer sees one way to do it. An architect sees 20 different ways, and you eventually come up with that. Well, a visionary engineer has that architect in him. We can do this 10, 20 different ways. Well, Tim came from Caltrans, worked in private sector, some very innovative companies. And we were very fortunate to recruit him into CCTA. And Tim, welcome this morning. We're delighted to have you. Let's start off with, what's the high level view? What are the big things that Contra Costa Transportation Authority has done here in Contra Costa?
Well, thank you, Mayor Arnerich. I really appreciate it and appreciate the support. And Mayor Arnerich is actually a really long-time commissioner of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority Board. And CCTA, as Mayor Arnerich was mentioning, it was formed in 1988 with Measure C and kind of renewed in 2004 with Measure J. And we essentially collect a half-cent sales tax from all of our great taxpayers here in Contra Costa County to really use those dollars to fund $2.7 billion worth of projects and programs in Contra Costa County. And what we do is we use those dollars to attract state and federal dollars into Contra Costa County. And by being able to do that, we've been able to leverage the Measure J dollars and invest about $5.6 billion of total investment into the infrastructure over the last 10 to 15 years into Contra Costa County. And some of the large projects that you may recognize are, a lot of the improvements right there near town of Danville on I-680. All the improvements on 680 that you've seen over the last 10 years.
Auxiliary lanes, yeah.
All the auxiliary lanes. So those are the lanes that go between the on and off ramps. So those were a huge benefit in terms of providing congestion relief and traffic operations in the southern part of the corridor in Contra Costa County. The other projects you may have seen is also the express lanes in the corridor in partnership with Metropolitan Transportation Commission. They are our large Bay Area regional planning organization that we work with for funding as well. And then also the fourth bore, the Caldecott Tunnel, was also a huge project that CCTA worked with Caltrans and our regional partners to fund and construct that project. So, and also for East Contra Costa County, all the modernization of Highway 4, that was about a $1.2 billion investment. So those are some of the large infrastructure projects that we've been able to bring into the county. But we also fund programs and smaller projects. For example, Andy was mentioning Diablo Road. We've also provided funding for the Sycamore Valley Road, as well as the Park and Ride in the past. And so we've also been able to provide, funding for, paving, as well as local streets and local projects. And all of that money gets all directly towards the return to source, directly towards the town. But we also fund great programs such as the Traffix program, but also we work with Safe Route to School programs. We do what we call Street Smarts program to really help educate schools about how to walk and bike safely to school, wear their helmet. We also work with high school students to make them more aware of walking and biking as they're driving, and working with the California Highway Patrol. We also fund accessible transportation programs to really help our seniors and disabled and veterans to get around in Contra Costa County. So there's a lot of, and we're only 20 people at CCTA. So we're very lean and mean, efficient.
But a multi-billion-dollar program manager, which is just exciting. So What most people don't know is that in the state of California, Caltrans primarily got out of building new facilities in 93, 94. And why was that? Well, that's because that was the first ERAF, the Educational Realignment Formula. And it really had to do with taxes, that the state took the tax base away from Caltrans to help schools because of the hangover effect from Prop 13 back in 1978. So it really forced people and counties and local jurisdictions to form their own agencies to help cover that. So all the projects, so all that work that's been done on 680 and that's all funded locally. So we contract for it, we do it. Caltrans is a partner and all that because they eventually own it. But Tim, there's one thing that made the sort of a worldwide difference about CCTA as an agency in an interesting innovation center. Can you tell us about Gomenton Station? What's it about and where are we headed with that?
Yeah, CCTA is really known regionally and nationally, and in some cases globally, for our innovation program at CCTA. We manage and operate one of the largest secured autonomous vehicle test beds in the country. And what that does is, one, it attracts technology to Contra Costa County. And what that also allows CCTA to do is to leverage that technology and really give us what we like to say a front row seat to the future for all of these types of wireless communications, autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles, and really working with the private sector in a just outstanding public-private partnership to really bring that technology into our projects and programs. And so that has really provided us the ability to operate, for example, one of the very first shared autonomous vehicles on public roads in California. And we really believe in how this technology, like a shared autonomous vehicle, can really help with that first and last mile problem. As you all know, we have BART, we've got transit, but we have to drive to get to transit. We have, and we need parking, et cetera. And so we want to do is provide personalized mobility options so that way you can get to where you're going potentially without using your car, and to get access to transit and transportation. That's really the basis of our Innovate 680 program.
Yeah, tell us about that. So segue, you go from the Transportation Authority to the authority forming Gomenton Station and the window to the world of the future. And now there's a project called Innovate 680 that's going to be the first in the nation. What is it going to do? What's the expectations, and when do we expect to see something here in the San Juan Valley?
So this Innovate 680 program is really the first of its kind in terms of really building a truly connected corridor. You may have saw towards the end of Mr. Mayor's your video at the end there about how more of this connected systems and connected infrastructure and getting these systems to work together more efficiently, more effectively, providing better, safe transportation. A lot of our transportation to date has been operated in silos. People operate transit, we operate our local roads, our signals, Caltrans operates the highway system. It's all been operated independently. And so Innovate 680 is really how we can leverage technology, but to really solve a problem of, relieving congestion in our freeways and our corridors without really widening a freeway anymore. As we all know, the 680 corridor is extremely it's congested, but it's also extremely constrained. We've got houses on both sides, businesses on both sides. And so it's going to be very costly and expensive to widen a freeway.
But we can't, the reality is we can't pave our way out of this because there's no right of way left.
There's no right of way left, right? And so now we're in this mode of how do we best leverage and optimize the existing assets and infrastructure that we have today? And that's what Innovate 680 is all about, is integrating all these systems together so that someday in the future that you will be able to use a mobile application, put in your origin and destination, depending on where you want to go, and you can pick your car or transit or, biking or walking, etc. And it would be able to tell you where you need to go, when to be there, you'd be able to plan, schedule, and pay, and also receive rewards for a trip, no matter what mode of transportation that you would take. And that really requires this development of this integrated transportation system. In terms of some of the first things that you're going to see, is going to be, this mobile application where we're planning on releasing that sometime next year. The other things that you're also going to see in the corridor is better transit in the corridor. We're looking to put in an express bus service that goes from Martinez all the way down to Dublin, and it would stop in Bollinger Canyon, Walnut Creek BART, and then also have local feeder bus service. That way we better serve, Sycamore Valley Park and Ride in the town of Danville. And then also the next thing you'll see, and to town is just really ready for this, is really developing this more connected signal system. So, really bringing these systems together so we can optimize these corridors more efficiently. So for example, you're going to have ramp meters on the freeway. You're going to have signals on your local road, and so
they're smart ramp meters, not the old Caltrans static, just based on off.
Yeah. So this new ramp metering system that we're looking at on the 680 corridor is a technology that we actually found in Australia. So this is not your typical Caltrans, ramp metering. This is what we call coordinated adaptive ramp metering, where these systems are coordinated together in a way that once you leave your house, you're able to coordinate the signals as well as the ramp meter, as well as the traffic flow on the freeway. So that way everything is moving harmoniously, right, and together. And so that way it's more efficient. We're able to move more people, but then also using technology to bring in that safety factor. So town of Danville is right smack in the middle of this project. We just received a grant for the automated driving system project. And this is really how to look at connected vehicle systems and autonomous vehicle systems to really make our roads safer and more efficient. So by taking connected vehicles, we've been able to coordinate them on the 680 freeway to improve traffic flow on the corridor. The other thing that we're also looking at is working with Nissan and Verizon is how we can actually use better detection for vehicles and pedestrians and bicyclists. And so that way we can in real time be able to communicate with a driver, before they may hit a pedestrian or a bicyclist or a vehicle. And that's really meeting or moving towards what we call Vision Zero, where we have essentially, moving towards a goal of 0 fatalities on our local roads and our highways. And so by leveraging technology and connected vehicle systems, we can make our infrastructure safer.
It's a good point you just made there, Tim. And in fact, we're already there in some ways. So just for those that are listening, to make sure that this isn't just, a pie in the sky. CarPlay, which is in most newer cars, been there for probably about 6 years. Use your smartphone, particularly like an iPhone. You punched in where you're going, and it tells you the time. It tells you if there's an accident. It gives you information. It tells you if there's speed zones coming up. It tells you all of that information. And what people don't realize is each car, and everybody has their cell phone in there, it's the Bluetooth technology, which is free data floating in there, is being used to help coordinate that. So what you're describing, Tim, is taking all of that data, formulating it, and controlling it through smart systems to make traffic safer. And sadly, we had a fatality last night on Camino Tasajara. And what you're describing would be a system that smart car technology, and the car manufacturers are really after this technology. That system would have given an alarm to that driver that there is a pedestrian in the area. And, it's those types of technologies that could save lives and stuff. And so you've got Verizon, you've got Nissan. Who are the other people who are here? I think there's the UC Berkeley and a couple of others been involved, and they've been doing real testing, because I think I got to watch one of those. What's happening in that area?
So right now we're working with UC Berkeley and like I mentioned, Verizon and Nissan as part of this overall project. We're also working with Amazon Web Services. And so we're actually planning on doing all of this communication of data in the cloud. And so working with UC Berkeley, they're the ones that have developed this algorithm that can take about 5 to 10% penetration of connected vehicles in the 680 corridor and be able to coordinate that with non-connected vehicles, because we know it's going to take time for everyone to move and own a connected vehicle. And so we want to make sure this is today, this is now and here today. And so what we're doing is trying to is learning how to coordinate these smart vehicles with, I'll say, not smart vehicles.
Right.
And so that algorithm is being developed right now, and we're testing that algorithm in the 680 corridor, with Caltrans, with Nissan and Verizon. How Verizon kind of fits into this and to make this actually work is we're talking about vehicle to infrastructure communication. So this is really getting the infrastructure and the vehicles to communicate through a wireless platform. You may have heard about it for 5G and 4G. And so that wireless platform is what Verizon is providing to help provide the system that will have not only the real time and the latency to meet our safety specifications, so that way we can actually make this happen in real time and save lives. And
we're also, I was going to say a real important feature, because somebody asked the question of this. We're doing this, it's a free app. We're trying to make this the national standard for data flow for traffic, and not that it's not monetized to do that. The only way we believe the system works is that everybody has equal free access to this, so that it really makes a connected future. And we've got a lot of good solutions that have been well tested, and even the testing at each time we use CarPlay with our whatever program you're using for guidance, that data is collected and improved almost on the spot. Some of it has artificial learning and stuff that goes in it. So big picture. So we go from the local streets and roads of safety, maintaining, repaving. We go to Traffix, which is fixing traffic around our congested schools. We'd love to add more. There's an opportunity in the future that we're looking at, that if we can do another half-cent sales tax and have an additional funding source, we would love to expand that program. And of course, at CCTA, we're up for a unique grant for $395 million mega grant. Tim, we got just a couple of minutes here before we go to answer some other questions. What would that grant do for us, and who is helping us get that?
So you all know that last year, the Senate passed and the administration signed what we call the Invest in Infrastructure Jobs Act, the IIJ. This is the infrastructure bill, brought in an unprecedented amount of $1.2 trillion for transportation funding. And now there's starting to become funding requests. One of those funding requests is called the Multimodal Grant application, more commonly known as MEGA. And that program is really set up nicely for a program like Innovate 680, where you've got this network of projects working together to provide this holistic transportation solution. And MEGA so we've submitted that. And what's interesting is the Bay Area has endorsed that this is the only project that we will support in the Bay Area for this. And so that $395 million will actually fully fund the entire Innovate 680 program. And that's significant, right? It's significant to be able to fully fund this and bring this to fruition. The overall program as a whole is about $1 billion. And so we've been able to bring in state and local funding to about $500 to $600 million. And so this would fill in the gap and bring this complete vision to reality. That's
exciting. That's really cool. So let's everybody can unmute. We're going to sort of go, whoever wants to answer questions. The first one's for you, Kellie. It's easy. So when are the bus passes going to get in parents' hands that have purchased them already?
Close to the beginning of the school year, probably more toward the end of July. This one.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. And you can still buy those passes online. And what's the website again?
Yes, ridetraffix.com.
Okay. Traffix. So T. Remember, it's FIX, not FIC. It says in
Yes.
fixed traffic. So, Andy, there are some interesting things people have been asking about that we see around towns. Our stop signs have a red pole on them now, or a red reflector device, and they're asking, what's that yellow stripe that's being added around the traffic signal light? What are those things, and what's the purpose?
Great question. So actually Caltrans started this as a safety feature to accentuate the traffic signal heads, to make them more visible, to make them pop out at on and off ramps. And now all the cities and towns and counties were kind of following along, and now we're starting to do them at more of our kind of high collision locations. So it really helps pop that signal head out. So the driver really attracts their attention. So that's one of the things we're doing at signals. And then the stop signs, like you mentioned, big bright red stop signs, sometimes that's just not enough. So we're adding those red reflector strips so that they even pop out even more, similar to what's happening with the yellow tape around the signal head. So
Yeah, they do stand out.
yeah, they do. Yeah. Not as groundbreaking technology wise, but nevertheless, very important traffic.
Sometimes you got to take technology with some low level stuff. But
Yeah.
speaking of which, so what happens? We have all of these 50 plus traffic signals. We don't have enough police officers to help control traffic when they go out. So what have we done to make sure that these systems run when our power goes out? And we're going to have probably more of that coming up in the future.
Yeah, great question. Especially with all the, the PSPS events, that have been happening over the last couple of years. That's going to become more common. So one of the things, again, Danville has been kind of ahead of the curve on with past projects is their battery backup system. So when the power gets cut off at an intersection, it stays functional for a period of time running off batteries. Our system is getting older, so we are looking to replace those systems and upgrade them with systems that provide longer battery life. And then it also allows us the ability to monitor those systems remotely versus
We
having
know
to go
when
out.
they're working and not, right? Because
Exactly.
sometimes the battery's there and the power goes off and we realize, oh, that battery had died. So
Right.
yeah, let's call it smart battery technology.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Tim, another couple of questions that people ask is on freeway technologies that, we have our shoulders, right? And at a time, you'll see people get frustrated and they'll try to pull over on the shoulder. But they're part of the Innovate 680 is also doing something else. And you mentioned a tiny bit, but can you describe what the opportunity is to use that shoulder in only under certain conditions, and what might those conditions be, and what would we expect to get a benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, one of the things about transit is that, sometimes it's inefficient because it has to sit in congestion.
Or accidents, particularly.
Or from an accident or something like that. And so the idea is to be able to maintain, transit reliability and travel times. There's opportunities to leverage the outside shoulder for bus use during certain times. So this would be during congested periods only. It would be limited to 35 miles an hour or slower. And so what happens is if congestion is starting to happen at 35 miles an hour or less, then the buses are allowed to use the shoulder. And then the shoulders are not allowed to travel no more than 10 miles an hour faster than the adjacent lane or the slow lane of traffic. And so by doing that, we're able to also leverage technology to be able to provide safe travel of these buses in the shoulder by obviously authorizing it during certain times, but also coordinating the bus traffic with, say, for example, the on-ramps. And so this kind of gets back to that more state-of-the-art, ramp metering technology, where if the bus is able to connect and talk to the on-ramp ramp meter, they would be able to, hold red just slightly longer, so that way
Let the bus pass by.
Let the bus pass
Literally,
by.
that kind of fine tuning.
Through the on-ramp. And imagine this happening in real time, automatically, right? And so that's the type of kind of smart technology we're looking at in terms of the ramp meter as well as the buses. And that will be able to maintain travel time savings and be able to allow transit to have anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes of travel time savings compared to congested traffic in the corridor.
Great. Kellie, we're talking about how you mentioned how routes are redone every year. So somebody asked, if our whole neighborhood signed up for Traffix, would that change the bus route?
Well, actually, how I'm trying to give you the best.
Say 20 or 30 people signed up on an area that we're kind of covering. Would that affect how the routing would be done? Does that have an influence?
It could potentially, yes. Actually, we have 2 stops that we're adding in this year, right along Diablo Boulevard. And that is exactly what happened. The parents were calling me and emailing me, and I said, well, I need to actually see that people are purchasing the passes before we create the stop. Because we have to, we will adjusting every route this year because of the time change, bill changes. So we are adding in 2 stops that have been highly requested. And that is kind of the how that goes is who signs up for it? Do we really have people that are going to be there? We will look at it. We'll make sure it's a safety, make sure that's a safe stop. And, you know, we're flexible. Yeah. So that's what we're working on right now. So.
Great. And you mentioned, you know, obviously the high schools sell up pretty quick, but we have both Cal High has approximately 10 seats open, and
Yes.
for the San Ramon site has approximately 10.
Yes.
And those pretty much by the time school starts, those are always sold out. Is there a waiting list for things like that? If somebody has to move out of the area and the pass becomes available, how does that work?
Yes, actually at Monte Vista right now, we have an extensive waiting list for all of the routes. And then what happens is once a bus gets to 52, so 52 riders, it goes into a waitlist status. When you're on that waitlist, it just goes by when you purchased your pass for the time, the day. And then as the passes become available, that next person in line will receive an email, and you have 48 hours to respond to the email to purchase the pass. And then it pushes right on to the next person. So yeah. So
it demonstrates how much the demand is there. And people
Very
ask, well, hey, I'm willing to pay. If we get 52 people to sign up, can't we do another bus? And the answer is no. And it's because parents pay such a small portion of the actual cost of running the bus because CCTA, and unfortunately we have limited funds. Although as I mentioned, Supervisor Candace Anderson really dug deep to find what the county could do to support that. So, you know, the only way I believe that we're going to be able to add more buses is either we have to really raise the cost, because Arenda has a similar program, but they pay almost 2 to 3 times the cost because they pay for more buses that way. But if we can reauthorize and get increased funding in there, we'd be more than glad to be able to do this. So yeah, pretty exciting if we can. Andrew, what's the detail when we talk about the new pathway, bicycle crossing, the safe crossing? It was related to the McGee property and Diablo between Green Valley going towards Blackhawk in that direction. Can you give us, we got just a couple of minutes left, just a high level view. What's that going to look like, and how safe do we think it's going to be?
Yeah, very exciting project. So for years, we've had it in all of our local plans here to extend the existing Diablo Road Trail, or what's better known as the Barbara Haile Trail, that starts at Green Valley Road, goes up to the intersection of Calle Arroyo, and it's about a half a mile long currently. But we are now under design and will build a new section of trail that will be considered a Class 1 trail that'll accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists. And it'll connect that existing trail and provide another connection all the way up to what's going to be the new McGee Preserve project that's to the east there off of Blackhawk Road. Ultimately, it's going to be a 2.1 mile contiguous Class 1 trail. It's going to connect basically our downtown to Mount Diablo Scenic Park. And as we know, we have a lot of bicyclists that go out to Mount Diablo Scenic Park. It's definitely going to accommodate them, but it's also going to provide a pedestrian connection too that we currently don't even have. So it's a great project, long awaited, and it's a reality now. So we're all very excited, and hopefully construction will happen starting next summer.
Yeah, fully funded. That's pretty exciting. And what's really, really impressive about that project, that for bicycle riders, there'd be no reason for a bicyclist, once they're at the Green Valley Diablo intersection, there's no reason they should be riding on the trails. I mean, on the public streets through that very windy old section, because they have, as you said, a class 1 trail to be able to do that. So safety, safety. Awesome. Well, this brings us to 10 o'clock. We keep this as a 1-hour program. Kellie, thank you for running one of the most exciting programs to keep our children safe. Traffix is the safe route to school to get our children in. And it's also a relief to parents to be able to get them off to do their other things and know that their child's going to be picked up safely. You got a great device there to keep track of the kids. The parents can check it out. So thanks. We wish you all the luck. We hope let's get all those seats sold out this year. And Tim Hales, boy, what can I say? You're the rock star in this part of California, and the team that you have in trying to innovate and find real solutions that make a difference in moving people and transportation. And we're so delighted that the Danville San Ramon corridor here is going to be that first opportunity to see all of these technologies come to fruition. So with that, happy Friday to everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will see you a month from today. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.